Starfield is just around the corner, and so far on this channel, we've gone through pretty much everything, but we haven't looked at the finer details. That's why in today's video, we are going to be going through all the obscure details that we've been able to find from Starfield. So firstly, you will be able to start a business within the game. This isn't gameplay that's been revealed, or Bethesda haven't even shared details on this, but there is a very slight hint. This comes from backgrounds. Backgrounds are exactly what they sound like. These are backgrounds that you can apply to your character, and it will supply you with extra content, a few extra things to do, and also will give you skills. One of these skills is called commerce. The description of this says that you will be able to open and run a successful business. What is this business? No one really knows, but it is an opportunity that you can go down if you wish to do so. Number 2. Environmental changes will change combat. It's likely that you've already seen clips of recoil whilst you're floating around in space. As you fire your gun, you will be pushed back, allowing you to more or less float or even put yourself on an upward trajectory depending where you want to go. This is a fighting mechanic, but also could be used for movement. This isn't the only environmental change. There'll be some planets which will be extremely cold. And we've seen clips within gameplay where you've shot barrels of water, and as they've exploded, the water instantly freezes. And of course, this won't happen on warmer planets, but if it gets too hot, this in itself will just evaporate. This is something that could help or even go against you within combat. You can use the environment that you're in to give you the upper hand, or potentially enemies could also do the same thing to you. Number 3. Stealing ships is not as easy as it sounds. This whole idea on paper sounds amazing, but Bethesda don't want you to jump into game, immediately start stealing ships, rack up as many credits as possible, and just completely dominate the game. There are some things that you have to do. This involves unlocking certain skills which will allow you to target specific parts of spaceships, and by shooting them, that is when they become dead in the water, or I guess dead out in space. From that point, you will need to go through, clear out all enemies, and then take hold of that ship. You're still not done there. At that point, you will need to register this. The second that you take hold, it will be unregistered, which may mean that depending on what systems that you go to, it might instantly be flagged and other ships will try to shoot you down. So you must register this. It's at that point in which you'll have the opportunity to add this to your fleet, or you could potentially sell it on. But in order for you to register, it's going to cost you quite a bit. And that's that barrier. More than anything, ship customization and also stealing ships in itself to profit from is more endgame than anything else. And number 4, bots will pronounce your name correctly. Well, at least the name that you put for your character. Vasco is one of these robots within game, and you will be able to use Vasco as a companion. And whilst you're on journeys together, Vasco will say your name. It's assumed that it's equipped with a text-to-speech, so whatever you do select as your character name will be the name in which it's pronounced, no matter what it is. And of course, there may be some more serious players out there which just go and put their name or a name that they like, but it also means any other type of name, any rude name. Vasco will then pronounce it. And Vasco isn't the only one. There will be other bots within the game that will do the same thing. Number 5. Starfield comes with a fully interactable cockpit. Whereas with a lot of space games, you'll be able to jump into your spaceship, go into first person, and then fly off. But whenever you press any type of button, it doesn't really change anything. Your character will always be holding the steering wheel, and you'll always be looking out as you traverse the skies. But in Starfield, everything will have its purpose. So if you do start to fire your missiles, your character will be seen firing missiles. If you decide to select your power supply so that you can adjust the variables, as you do it, your character will press buttons in order to control your power supply. Number 6. There's mysterious alien figures which have appeared throughout gameplay releases. There are some which have been put down to different types of outfits that your character could wear. And that is a theory, but there's also some where we can clearly see that you are controlling your character, and off in the distance, there is a mysterious alien figure, which is certainly interesting. It wouldn't be any surprise to go and find life on other planets, but with everything that has been shared, life on other planets is kinda like animals. Any type of animal which is habitable to that planet, and not so much advanced intelligent life. It should also be said that the humans within game, based on the lore that we do know about, are humans from Earth. Whatever happened to Earth, they were able to get off before. Now there are some humans which aren't aware that there's human life, which is to suggest that potentially they were one of the first to actually leave before knowing what finally happened. We've seen some hints of this within gameplay reveals, but anything outside of that, there's been nothing. But with some of these images, we can clearly see that our character is wearing a spacesuit in order for them to survive this environment. But whatever is off in the distance, they're not really wearing a spacesuit. So what is it? That is a mystery we'll have to wait and see. Number 7. Planets are practically limitless. If you didn't know already, planets themselves, they haven't been handcrafted, they're not made within game. They are procedurally generated. This means that you'll be able to see a planet off in a distance and you will be able to fly over to it, but it's not until you actually get close enough and then land in which this planet is then built out. Each planet will then be backed by a rule set, so this will dictate what resources are there, if there's wildlife, if so, what type of wildlife, any type of story elements, any type of structures, pretty much everything. Everything that could possibly be on the planet itself will be dictated by this rule set. But to add another layer to this, Bethesda have handcrafted certain elements. So as said, the procedural generation will handle whether or not there is story elements or structures, but those story elements and structures themselves will be handcrafted and then just place whereabouts they need to be within the world. But based on exploring, it's going to be massive. And because it is procedurally generated, what you land on may be within a system and that planet will have a name, and your friends can visit the exact same planets, but they'll have a completely different layout, which is just insane to think about. Number 8. You can land absolutely anywhere on a planet. The choice is entirely up to you. With each planet as you scan, if it is a location which also contains cities or landmarks, there will be the option to immediately select those places and land, but you're not dictated based on these locations. If you want to be just a few miles away from this, you can land there. If you want to be the other side of the planet, you can land there. Now with that said, it's unknown how water mechanics are going to work, in that we don't know whether or not you're able to swim in game. There's been no gameplay of this, but it's likely you won't be able to land in water, so that's going to be the only place in which you can't land, but everywhere else is entirely up to you. Number 9. There's a pretty serious status effect within game. We don't know how in depth this will go, but what we do know is already quite serious. And things can get even more serious if it goes untreated. This is the status of your character. So far within game, we've seen little clips here or there which talks about joint pain, soreness, and even coughing. But it's likely we're able to see a lot more, as these in themselves are not broad terms for your status. These are already quite specific, and we don't know where these can lead to. So for example, with coughing, that in itself could be a symptom of a much serious illness, which untreated could really damage your character's stamina and their overall health. These are things that you'll need to keep a lookout on whilst going through the game. And at number 10, there will be space magic. Now, we've seen a bit of this already within the gameplay. This was a bit of a cliffhanger in which a Starfield Direct did end on, with the character putting their hand up and then everyone all of a sudden just being pushed away. We also can't ignore the artifact itself, which is going to be a major story element. And from what has been revealed so far on this, it does certainly have a magical-esque impact on you. But there's a good chance as well that this could also link into your character. Within the character menu, we've seen clips where Bethesda have broken it down. They've gone through each section and they've highlighted the 5 dots which can be seen. 5 dots around your character which signify the 5 areas which you have control over. Except within other parts of the gameplay reveal, when it isn't specifically showing the menu itself, but it has been revealed within the background or just something that's been passed through, there's actually 6 dots to signify that there are 6 things that you can change. most believing that this is magic. Now once you get to a certain rank, you'll also unlock the ability for magic, and that will also be another layer to your character. But anyway, here are 10 obscure details that you now know about Starfield. If you enjoyed this video, then I highly recommend clicking the next video on screen. That video goes through 48 details that you must know about Starfield before the release. So click that and don't miss out, because we are getting incredibly close now. I hope you enjoy.